From humble beginnings to taking on high-end retailers, David and Adam Light, co-founders of IconByDesign, have rejected the disposable and made the beautiful affordable, offering sustainably sourced, solid timber furniture at an affordable price. So are they game changers? Let's find out. I'm Edwina Bartholomew. Welcome to Game Changers. So explain the concept of IconByDesign in a nutshell. It's a furniture store, beautiful quality, but not ridiculously expensive. So how do you do it and how does it work?
We looked at the market here and what we saw was we were looking for beautiful pieces with style. You were looking at branded items, and in Australia the prices were very expensive. The strange anomaly, if you go to Europe and look at the same products, they weren't the same price point. And that's because the way the supply chains work with wholesalers and then the brand owners and royalties and franchisors, and you have this stack of layers of middlemen that cause that price inflation. So we said, let's look at how the supply chain works. Let's directly ourselves control from sourcing wood responsibly, FSC certified, through to manufacturing, no middlemen involved, and came up with a supply chain model that was really optimized. And in doing that, we're able to, in most cases, halve the price or even less compared to what our competitors were really doing.
This two-price model. So how does that actually work? I walk into your store, I see a piece of furniture I love, I can either buy it at one rate or another. So what's the difference?
The short answer is that it's got to do with how quickly you receive the product. The typical supply chain that exists goes factory, wholesaler, retailer, end consumer. Now, because we are cutting out the wholesaler, we obviously have to import the products ourselves, so we've got a warehouse of products. So if a customer would like the item straight away, they can pay the buy now price and we'll have the order dispatched in a few days. Whereas if the customer allows us to pre-order it for them, there's a few costs that we save on. So firstly, we're not having the warehousing and storage cost, because once the container arrives, it gets sent out. Mm-hmm. But secondly, we've got to pay the factories up front. Now, the way that an importer would typically finance that is by going to a bank and getting trade finance. But if a customer pre-orders and pays in full up front, then we don't have the need to go and source finance. If a customer pre-orders, it's much cheaper for us, and that's how we can pass on a 20% discount. What's
the response you've had from your customers about your furniture, about your products?
Look, I think that the style of furniture and the quality that it is, I guess, aspirational. It's a very on-trend style in Australia, and when people can see that they can actually get the style that they wanted, but it's half, third, even a quarter of the price that they were seeing at these other stores, it's a bit of a relief.
It's a win.
Yeah. Well, it's good value.
It is good value. Let's talk about sustainability, because that's really a buzzword at the moment in terms of homewares, in terms of fashion. How do you make your products sustainable, and why is that so important to you, David, to have that as such an important part of your brand?
We live in a closed society. It's an ecosystem. If we harm the system, we're effectively harming ourselves. So that's very much, I guess, part of our philosophy, and sustainability is a core part of that. So our approach is, how can we have this entire process sustainable in terms of procuring of the wood? Solid wood is not polluting at all. It's a very clean process. A solid piece of furniture's life is typically 10 to 15 times longer than a manufactured wood. If you buy a manufactured wood item and it gets damaged, you tip it. There's not much you can do with it. With a solid item, if you damage it, one, you can repair it, and two, you generally don't. It becomes part of the character of the product. It becomes the history of the item. It becomes a story you can tell. We draw inspiration from historical designs and see what works. And then we contemporize it and project it forward. And an objective of ours, if someone buys from us, they can walk in the store, purchase the item, 10 years later look at it and say, I still know why I bought it. Still enjoying it for what it is. And our ethos is an Australian ethos. So we believe it's best to do the design here.
What an honour to be a finalist in the New South Wales Telstra Business Awards, particularly for a fairly young business, David.
Yeah, often businesses tell stories, they say things, and how real is it? So the idea behind entering the Telstra Award is to get a validation from people who are assessing these sort of things. We actually were also a recipient last year. This is our second year in a row.
We're very humble about that. It's a pretty big deal for you guys. That's awesome. Twice in a row.
Yes, and it's very exciting. Our team love it. It's a validation of the place they're working in. Yeah.
Not just building a business, David, but building a business with family. That's such a lovely thing for you guys to be doing between generations.
Yeah, so this is a father-son business. The truth is Adam had a business that was working. I joined him to create the new business. And it's really quite a privilege for me to be involved in a father-son business. My daughter has just recently come into the business as well. She's been very involved in the design of our stores, and now she's coming on board in a managerial capacity. And so it's now the three of us with obviously our team, and absolutely loving it.
Well, you've made it very easy for us because we can take the vase, the table and the pillow home. So it's been a pleasure to meet you both.
Thanks for doing that.